Well, welcome. I'm Electra Porzel. I'm the director of the Language of Consciousness Institute, and I've just gotten uh, f- finished with a fantastic conversation that was about one of Charles Einstein's old story, new story dichotomies. And it ended on such an exciting note that each of us holds the new story in our own fields, and that's how we act as helping others move into the new story. So let me tell you what the old story and new story are, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. The old story, and that simply means the way that we have structured how power works, how control works, how economics work in the world, the belief system on which our systems were built. So it's the universe progresses inexorably toward greater entropy. The amount of usable energy is finite and ever decreasing. Scarcity is built into physics. If that's not a depressing statement, I don't know what is. One of the things that we know just on a basic level is that the universe is always expanding. If the universe is always expanding, then there's more and more energy always available. So this idea of there being a limitation, that not everybody can have enough money, not everybody can have access to resources, is made up. And it probably has to do with belief systems about whatever. I don't know what the belief systems are about, but I do know that what it breeds in the people that have to live within old systems like that, it is a scarcity model. There won't be enough money. I have to play with the system. I have to live with them. I'm probably either a victim or I'm an oppressor in the system, and I've got to play that game or I won't have what I need or what my family needs. I've heard descriptions of why the great cities of, South America and other countries disappeared, because what they did was use all of the resources of the area around it, and they didn't feed it back to the people. They used it to feed the city, and inevitably the city died. So the real question is, how do you build systems that recognize a different reality? So the new story, this is the new story, and you see it rising all sorts of places today. And this is what the supposition from Eisenstein is that the new story is what will make our societies and humanity have a sustainable future. Because right now, given this model of entropy and scarcity, it ain't going to work, and it's not working big time. So we won't have something to give our children and our grandchildren, not beautiful, viable, enjoyable, happy existences here on Earth. So we want them to have that. We want them to have paradise here. So the new story is this: new energy and new matter are forever being born. Infinite energy is available from literally nothing. So we think it's nothing, but we live in it. One of the women today described it as a nurturing substance. You probably heard it called prana or chi, but it's around us all the time. And so this abundant energy, we can breathe into our systems, we can use it to feed our bodies and feed our spirit and feed our mind, and it's unlimited. This there doesn't have anything to do with your social class, your economic class, your physical health, your age, anything. And all you have to do is breathe it in. And you have to believe that it's there. But in any case, the last of it says, abundance is built into physics. So what we know, you have two different concepts of the way that you view the world. And we know that there was a mass shift in consciousness during the COVID confinement. People moved out of having to feel like they had to accept that their boss could control them 24/7, that they had no such thing as a life with family, life on vacation, away from work. And they had to drive to work, da 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 da. In the COVID confinement, people suddenly got shocked and said, oh my God, I don't want to live this way. This is not worth it. The trade is really a bad trade. It's not a trade. I'm getting nothing other than a paycheck, and I'm losing my kids. I'm losing my sanity. I'm losing sleep. I mean, I read this one article about a woman who was raising 2 small children and working, and said COVID finally let her get some sleep. Very simple, right? So in COVID that confinement served to give a real slap up the head to a lot of people to say, this is not the life that I want for myself or for my children or my family. And they are willing to do something differently. Some of them quit their jobs. Some did this quiet quitting. Some went on to be able to describe the kind of work that they wanted to do, the kind of environment they wanted to be in, the kind of job supervisor or boss that they wanted. And they found it. They searched for it because all of a sudden they realized that they weren't living the life that they wanted to live, and that they had something of worth to give to whatever job or enterprise that they entered. So they started to believe that they had more than they had before as far as inner resources, and they had no need to buy into an old model of oppression. So they didn't need to be a victim anymore. And what are all of the ways that each of us can do that? One of the gals that was on the call today referred to a book that she'd read called Revolutionary Relationships. It's by Patrice Albert, Albere, and she talks about releasing the power of mutual awakening. And she has a group on Zoom where people go on every day and do some of these exercises together. And the woman was saying how it was addictive. It felt so good. It was something that was not part of her life before. And that it really nurtured her in a way that she hadn't been nurtured in all the other kinds of things that she'd done over a lifetime. And then she described an exercise that she was doing with a group of people. And she was doing the exercises. I think it was a board for church. In any case, what happened is that I know from my work in energetics that in her field was this wonderful nurturing experience of being with these groups of people the evolutionary relationships group. And that background, that richness of her own field fed this group. It's like you can hold the energy of what you are nurtured by, and it can be conveyed to others. Not conveyed, but just it's like mirror imaging. Their field starts to recognize it and access it in a way that they couldn't if you tried an intellectual conversation, or if you weren't actually being the energy that you're talking about. One of the things I think that we need to recognize is that oftentimes we are the agent that provides people with this experience of a more infinite energy, more nurturing substance, more expanded field, just by being that with them, because they may not have had that experience of being with someone who holds that field, who holds that experience, and it becomes a substance that nurtures them as well. When I was in cranial sacral, I'm a cranial sacral therapist, and one of the teachers of mine said, if you ever come into a contraction that really seems like it's stuck, you expand your own field of that body part and the client's. So let's say if I'm working on someone's hips and it's really tight, then I imagine that my hips are now the width of the room. And then the client's hips are the width of the room. And if it's still there, then I go wider. And so in my imagination, in my sensing of my energetic field or my biofield, I'm getting larger and larger until those constrictions can wiggle out. and have room to move out of the space and no longer be confined in a space in their bodies. If I can do that energetically with my thinking and holding a field of larger space, that if my friend can be in a calm way holding this field of what she knows nurturing relationships are, the client's body, the client's system, the client's spirit, client's emotions mirrors that. So part of this discussion is you really have to buy into the fact that there's larger energetic fields that feed you. One woman talked about, she said, it's like being a fish in a fishbowl. And we're in a fishbowl of infinite energies, where infinite can always feed us. And we don't believe it. So it's the fish believes she is not in the fishbowl, but she's in dry air and she's dying. And I think that's part of what we're talking about. The historic mind says, no, there's only a limited amount of any resource. And, you're not going to get it. But if I say, well, there's a thing called prana and chi, and it's in the air all the time, then yeah, I'm just going to breathe it in. I was in a quantum bioengineering class, and one of the things that she suggested, the teacher suggested, was that take a deep breath, and as I breathe out, I allow it to move to a particular organ, to my physical body, to my etheric body, to some of my subtle bodies. I did it today. I was in an acupuncture session, and I wanted to breathe into a particular meridian to really help and a particular organ. And I can feel that. Now, I've done a lot of energetic work, so I have a sentience, awareness about this. You may not, but at the same time, just know that this is an abundant, rich, nurturing environment that is constantly generating more. The energy exists, it does not disappear, and it just changes the form it has. You can breathe in prana to any part of your body. You can bring in chi to different parts of your body. It's the same, two different names for the same thing. You can connect to the field of someone whose field you like. So if you connect to the one gal on the call, suddenly you get access to her sense of how nurturing those relationships are in that group. And we can all do that. So the real question is, do you want to believe what is really going on, or do you want to stick with the old historic idea? And we're always, if you're alive today and you're listening to this call, you probably had 20 to 80 years of living in this restricted judgment, shame, oppression, victim, their scarcity model. And every time you find yourself there, then just really go, okay, let me experiment with this and see, is this nature is abundant, energy is always available to me? How can I shift? Let me just try it. And that's what I suggest. Now, one of the things that I do know, and a resource I will tell you about, is the creation templates. The language of creation templates really do provide you with a way that you can describe exactly what you crave in the world. You end up with 16 life-enhancing phrases that you didn't have before about that describes the healthy body you crave, or the car that you crave, or the job that you crave, or the relationship that you crave, whatever it is. And it creates in your mind, in your mental mind, all these possibilities now for what that might mean to you. And the observing exercise allows you to say, well, yeah, but I'm still really here thinking, blah, 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 blah. And there's that juxtaposition, but you go like, I know that stuff, those shame, blame, judgment, negative things that I'm saying, might be saying in my observing, are really not where I want to go. So when I start looking to the cravings that I'm doing, then suddenly I am drawn to that like a magnet. I may not have the experience of it, but I can describe it. And then if you write more and more of them, the more you're able to give, almost live the descriptions. So we're able to separate the experience of where we want to be with where we've been. And we can choose then to say, no, I don't want that. And it just happens every day in every little bit. So these are exciting conversations. At least they're exciting for me. I hope that gives you some ideas about what you may want to talk about with others, or you can join us in our weekly conversation at 5:30 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays. Always a new old story, a new story, but it's still this whole thing about recognizing how we've been controlled by the old story and recognizing how we are moving towards the new story in our lives. And the more of us that, just like what happened in COVID, the more of us that own the new story, the bigger the changes you're going to see in society. And I think we're seeing them now. So I thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I look forward to talking with you. Email me if you want to just tell me what you think. It's Electra at loc-institute.com. Take good care.